All right. So I think we're live on Facebook. Hi to everyone who is joining us from all over the world. Um, Happy to be here. I'm Jorge. I'm part of the marketing team here in Pro School. Thank you for joining us today in one of our, weekly webinars. So I just want to wait like 1 more minute, waiting to join, waiting for joining for the rest of the people who were planning to attend to the live webinar. So we can wait a little bit more, but in the meantime, I just want to let you know that we used to have these weekly webinars. You can go to our page, you can go to the event site, and you will see thousands of events that we have during the whole year, upcoming events, on-site events. We have webinars on Thursday. We have AMAs on Tuesday in our Slack community. So if you're not part of our Slack community, you can join us and you will ask a lot of questions to the different product managers that we have as a guest to our AMAs on Tuesday. So again, thank you for joining us today. Just in case you didn't know, Pro Schools offers product management certificates. We do it online and also at our 20 campuses worldwide. And on top of that, we have the different events that I just mentioned. So if you want to learn more, you want to get more information from there, you can head over to proschool.com after this webinar to check them out. So today I have the pleasure to introduce our guest presenting. I would like to introduce to you Ram Vengata. Ram is a seasoned product manager. He is leading, he has been working for the private sector bank who brings to his position more than 12 years of experience in strategy and system consulting. Actually, during his lucrative career, he has contributed to acquisitions and turnaround strategies in energy, real estate, IT, fintech, commodities, and mining sectors. Prior to his current work, he held roles as a strategy and management consultant, Q&A lead, and engineer. And most recently at, Green Capital Holdings, he has been responsible for driving the business strategy for solar business in India and Africa. Also, he has contributed to more than 12 business projects, including profitability and pricing optimization and risk mitigation strategy, just to name a few. So feel free to leave as much question as you have. I will read the question at the end of the webinar. You can you can type the question in the comments on Facebook. For sure, believe me, I will read all those questions today. So without further ado, let's welcome Ram. Ram, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your time, for all the knowledge, all your experience you're going to share with us today. Yeah, time is completely yours.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. That was quite a wonderful introduction of me. And hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, namaste to all the audience who have logged in. I'm right now in Canada, probably one of the best times in Canada, Toronto. I can actually show you the video of the lake and everything. It's quite beautiful and sunny out there, and it's probably just at the end of the fall, so only a few more days of sun here. The agenda, I was told to speak a bit about the product management and how to ensure the career, or what are the initial steps in product management and what to look into. I'll actually break the whole session. I think I probably have around 15 to 20 minutes, so you can feel free to ask me any questions. I have considered 4 sections. in product management. I'll prima facie focus towards the B2B products because there are a lot of companies offering B2B and B2C solutions, etc. And also from mostly how companies actually choose products and how a product manager at the client side would be working on. With that in mind, so there are 4 key elements. One is, how do you select the vendors as a product manager working for the client? Second, there are a lot of buzzwords about AI, ML, data sciences, and a lot more. There's a lot of myth about it. I want to talk a bit about that. And the third agenda is about the change management aspect, about how do you ensure that various stakeholders are taken into cognizance, and how do you ensure that the product actually goes in live as per the expectations. And the last, but certainly one of the more important one, is the importance of documentation. Without a lot of delay, I'll come back to the first point here. Whenever we work in the client side as product managers, one of the important roles expected from us is, how do we select the vendors? Okay, there's a lot of debate that, okay, fine, there are a lot of ideas suggesting, okay, fine, we want to build product in certain areas within the value chain. I'll probably speak of a specific example. Okay, I work for a financial institution, so there's a lot of need for products because of the drive towards digitization and everything. So there's a lot of priority given because there's only so much budget and everything. And so there's a product management team which sit and decide which are the products that can go live. Okay, now once that is decided, then comes the key part. Okay, let's say you want to build a simple say for some of the things. Say you want to build a liability product that is, say, or an asset product. Say, for example, say a loan offering product. Now, there would be a lot of vendors who will say that, okay, fine, we can build the loan product for you. We can deploy it at our end. It is extremely agile, wonderful, all features, etc., cost efficient and wonderful. So it's important to see that who amongst these vendors actually will be the best fit. Now, how do you actually decide that? The thing is, so obviously you have your own experience and everything, but it's important to have a certain framework wherein you weigh in on some key parameters. For example, cost, definitely, and the turnaround time, the scalability of the product that the vendor is offering, the ability of the product of the vendor to offer you a suite of products. Because if you get into a vendor, it is always important to explore the options of taking multiple products from that vendor. Otherwise, if you're only taking one vendor, then vendor management again becomes such a big pain point. So you want to see the suite of offers from that vendor. And again, depending on your the client, the IT policy and everything, you want to be doubly sure whether he can deploy it in your say cloud, or he's only going to offer it in his cloud. If he's going to do it in his cloud, then whether it follows or whether it suits your IT policy, security policy, and the legal aspect, the marketing team. What happens when, say, if there were to be a data breach, and a lot of stuff. So you have to be very particular about where do you want that product to be hosted on, and accordingly weigh in that parameter. Now, whenever you go and talk to a vendor, I'm sure they have a wonderful sales team who will pitch beautifully to you. In fact, in my own personal capacity, I can say that a product was pushed down my throat to be implemented because the vendor had convinced the senior management that this is the product that they want. Now, in that case, depending on whether you have a say or not, you can either give it back say a diplomatic way to the senior management that this product cannot be developed or cannot be customized, or you will have to somehow scale it down or or live with whatever you have. Now, all these things put together, trust me, make a lot of difference in gauging the vendor that you want to eventually live with. Because while these are all before onboarding, okay, there are a lot of issues during the onboarding and post onboarding, because once you have implemented the product at the client side, most vendors make life miserable by saying that even a small change to the product will incur a lot of cost and everything. So it's very important that you gel well with the customer, with the vendor, and make sure that your team and the vendor team are in cognizance, and the right dynamics are put in place and everything. So all things put together, identifying the right vendor who can be a partner with you, not just a vendor, before onboarding, during onboarding, and after onboarding. These are all play key roles in making sure that the vendor and the product are the right fit for you. Now, I'll go to my second point, because that goes in line with the vendor selection actually, which is there's a lot of buzz about digital, and within digital about data sciences, artificial intelligence, machine learning, RPA, and a lot of these new technologies that have come up along with it, data analytics as well. So the vendor might come up to you and say that we have the most advanced AI and ML that we use to ensure that your product is top class and is the best amongst the creed. Trust me, 95% of the vendors are only using buzzwords and do not actually have either AI or ML built into their product. One example I'll tell you. Say you want a product, something like, say, a chatbot. Say I'm speaking from the client. So the client wants something like a chatbot built on his website. So he approaches some of the vendors and they say, okay, fine, we have smart technologies behind, etc. Your chatbot can respond immediately and everything. But when you actually dig into the details, all that they would do is match keywords and nothing else. Okay. So for example, if the customer is typing in the chatbot, hey, can I what are all the offerings of the financial institution? Okay, so the chatbot would probably respond saying, okay, fine, 3, 4, 5, 6 options. Okay, some other person may say options from the bank and options for loans. Then again, the same answer will come. So how did the chatbot intelligently distinguish between these two questions and give the same response? It is only because someone at the back end actually configured that the chatbot is supposed to match for these keywords and then give this response. That's it. There is no machine learning, there is no artificial intelligence, etc. involved. It is as simple as the if formula that we write in Excel, or the basic C programming that we have learned during our grad schools. So there is and although I'm not debating or denying the fact that there are a lot of vendors, lots happening in all these technologies, but to actually provide AI and ML solutions, it's a lot of cost even to the vendors. So if there is any small vendor who is coming up to you and saying that, hey, I can actually give you all these solutions, no, he cannot, because it involves a lot of capital cost, and he would have probably scaled up his product to an ERP product already. If it's a small product that he is giving to you at a small cost, trust me, there is no AI or ML involved in it. I mean, at the back end, he may be using any database, open source, and whatsoever, or maybe some other newer technologies that he's exploring. If he's going to charge you very less in the absence of all these, probably he's taking you for a ride and treating you as the guinea pig, so that he can experiment with these technologies on you and make sure that the client is paying for his experiments. So very little offerings, on AI and ML. So to give you further background to this, understand that most financial institutions have legacy systems. Mainframes still exist. The other day I was talking to someone in one of the leading banks, and they suggested that one of their primary underwriting technology was built somewhere in 60s, and they still use the same. They're happy with it, they're content. So that means that their system, and any product that is supporting the underwriting guidelines there is really not required to be say the latest AI or ML or any other data sciences, RPAs, and all these things. It does not really need those things. So the product manager has to be smart enough to accept the reality and make a clear and pragmatic assessment of the maturity of the organization, and only then go to the vendor and seek the correct technology. Now, in consulting firms, if you see in IT consulting, say Accenture's, Deloitte's, the KPMG's, PwC's, or even McKinsey's, what they assess is the maturity of the organization. And if there is further diligence done, they would assess the maturity of various processes. Now, depending on the maturity of the process and where the organization wants to eventually move to, there is a kind of technology that would be used. So don't rush into the buzzwords. In fact, yesterday I was actually was hearing a conference in which even the keynote speakers over there were saying, just don't jump into these buzzwords and break your brains about it. Take it slow, but make sure that your organization's vision is in line with the kind of technology that is going to be procured, and accordingly the vendor that you want to choose, which I was speaking earlier. I hope I'm able to make valid points, and that all of you who has ever worked on the products from the client side, let me tell you, product management from the client side is a bit different from product management from the vendor side. The reason I'm saying this is because at the client side, there are different stakeholders that need to be addressed. And from the vendor side, especially if it's a product that is being sold, then the primary target is to increase the sales. And it would mean, because lot of probably documentation and everything went into building the product, and the vendor is only looking at increasing the sales. So the effort involved in product management from the vendor in building the product and everything is in a different phase compared to what the client side product management would demand, because there's a lot of customization, there is a lot of new inputs that will come in, and accordingly the vendor would have to probably have to relook at the product, scale it differently, have different interfaces, etc. So the product manager at the client side is primarily looking at identifying his requirements and mapping that to the features that are being provided by the vendor. Now, I'll take a step back here, because the assumption with which I spoke so far is that is where clients are planning to procure products from third parties, from vendors. If the client is planning to build a product in-house, then we're talking a different language altogether. Then there's no vendor selection, definitely, but you're talking to your own technology team, and within the technology teams, there are obviously, whether you have the right people, right skill set, everything that needs to be looked into, and building the right team and all those things. So I'll come to that point later, because the next two items that I'm going to speak about are common even when the product manager is actually building a product in-house. Now, in every, whether it's project management, application, or any other place, there is the most important aspect is the stakeholder management. Right? You want to make sure that you keep your bosses happy, you keep your customers happy, you keep your peers and everyone happy. So that brings me to my third point, which is change management. Now, as I was referring to earlier, most financial institutions, especially, have legacy systems and processes which are well defined, but are archaic. So many people might be comfortable doing things the way they are. I mean, the unknown thing is the devil for everyone, right? Typically, that's the challenge. You might have seen it in every IT project. I hope there are people here who are just not IT and also from other areas. But let me just talk about my experience here from being product manager for a financial institution. Earlier, I had worked for a B2C product wherein I was working from the vendor side and we were trying to develop a product, but I'll focus mostly on this side. So when we talk about managing the various stakeholders, understand this, it is not the shareholders that we're talking, because a simple product might not have a significant impact in the final shareholder value. There are products which are like big enough to impact the quarterly results of various companies. But over here, we're talking about small, gradual products that are being implemented. So, but trust me, even for that, there are tons of people that are involved. I'll quote a few departments that really matter in financial institutions. The risk team, the credit underwriting team, the compliance team, the legal department, the marketing department, and the sales teams. These are just the few that we have to interact. And definitely the operations, which actually are the backbone to most financial institutions. So all these teams will have to be taken into cognizance to ensure that the product rollout is smooth. Now, when do you actually plan this kind of cognizance? Is it like, okay, fine, you build the product and then you tell everyone that, hey, here's the product, we want your sign off? No, that's not how it's going to happen. From the time of actual onboarding of the vendor, okay, because I would in fact take it a step more. Even when the product is being conceived is when you want to engage all these stakeholders. It's really important because they are the eventual users of most of the products. Okay, so I'll tell you some of the requirements. Say you are building this product off wherein, say, you're offering some kind of a mortgage product, let us say. Okay, every product, because it's a financial institution, has to adhere to the internal guidelines, the regulatory guidelines, and various other important aspects. The KYC requirements, the security requirements, and again, security related compliance, risk related compliance, their sign off, and various other, A to Z people involved. So taking the approval from all these people is going to be a nightmare, definitely, because we're talking about people here, and everyone comes with different expectations, different modus operandi, different styles of working. Someone might be okay with, say, a bold letter with a red background appearing there. Someone would not be okay, etc. So these are all the different typical problems that are involved in any IT project. You talk to any project manager, IT project manager, any senior management, one of the biggest challenges that they face in deployment of products is change management. Okay, now as I said, in large enterprise application kind of products, okay, it's almost 18 months, 2 years, 3 years that you talk in terms of implementing the products. But even when we're talking about small products, there is a definite requirement of onboarding of all the possible stakeholders, identifying them, making sure that they are onboarded, and then taking their sign off. And while the product is being tested, the beta version, the alpha, the final version, the sandboxes and everything, the MVP as they call it. So you want to make sure that their buy-in is there. And once the product is already is ready to be deployed, then again, you want to make sure that you ask all these teams to give their sign-off to ensure that, because eventually they are the users, so their sign-off is really important. And once the product is live, there are going to be a lot of support required. So all the support needs to be provided for them. So during this whole process, trust me, this becomes one of the biggest pain points. So the sooner you plan for change management related activities, the faster it's going to be in terms of implementing this. Now, I'll jump to the last point from the change management, which is the documentation. Now, you may say that, okay, fine, everything is online, the code is in place, etc., the document's working fine. I'm talking about documentation beginning from the contracts to ensuring that all the process-related documents are in place, the compliance-related document is in place, and the final actual documentation about the product. It's very important that you make sure that your legal and every other department signs off on these documents and make sure that they are traceable, they are easy to identify, accessible, and all those things. So, because trust me, because of ambiguity in some of the terms and conditions in the initial contracts and the document, in the initial SOWs and everything, lot of products exceeded 3x, 4x, 5x the budget that was given to them, and that's the definite sign of failure for any product. So please focus on the documentation aspect as well. So I think I'm behind the time here, so I would want to quickly summarize the 4 elements. Make sure that enough work is done in identifying the vendors. Don't buy into the buzzwords of all the new digital related buzzwords, the blockchains and everything over here. Take your time and make sure that they are in line with what the company envisions, and focus a lot more efforts on change management and documentation. These 4 typically will ensure that your product development and deployment is smooth. As I said, there's a different set of challenge, especially when you're building the product in-house, but change management and the documentation still remain the same. But when you are doing it in-house, you want to be careful in identifying the right team, making sure that they understand the business requirements and that everyone is on the same page and the product is developed accordingly. I'll take a pause there. And if you have any questions in any of these lines, I'll be more than happy to respond.
Sure, Ram. Thank you for your time. Let me add my camera here. Yeah, I do have a question. There is someone from the audience that is, asking you something. His question is, how and can analytics professionals like data science professionals or machine learning professionals can migrate to product management?
Okay. Well, I'm not from that background, honestly, but we do a lot of data analysis. So trust me, so it is important to step a bit aside from the technology when you're talking about product management, because it involves a lot more than just technology. So my response is actually agnostic to any technology, whether it's data sciences or MI. Okay, so you're good at your technology, which is very important. But the more important aspect is how do you use the technology to eventually build the product. And in order to build the product, there are a lot more spokes that you need to address. If you're on the vendor side, when you're developing the product, then you need to ensure that you have the right team, or you are the man with a lot of skill sets who can ensure that you know the business requirements better, you know the UX better, you know what kind of technologies that you want to use and everything. So I would say whether it's say RPA, DS, MI, or anyone, it's important that you understand the bigger schema of things, that technology alone is not driving the whole product development. Then anyone can become product managers.
That's cool. That's cool. Sure. I have another question for someone left shot. What is the most preferred career background for becoming a product manager?
Okay, so I have interacted with a few product managers during the course of, I think, people who have come from consulting, like me, who had a very little product management background earlier. I had project management, but consulting. I have become a product manager, and people with industry expertise have become product managers, and people with technology expertise have also become product managers. So I would say different kind of people have chosen different path to become product managers. But coming from consulting with a lot of industry experience and people management experience really helped me become a product manager. But I would say amongst all the paths, ensuring that you are able to manage the stakeholders is the key aspect of becoming a product manager.
Yeah, that's cool. I have a follow-up here from the first question. The guy who asked about the background in machine learning and data science, he said something like, I'm currently operating as a freelance software project manager to build up my temperament and experience for managing tech teams. Do you think that is correct method to make the transition?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Trust me, I would say a lot of organizations do not probably have a product manager with them. They're probably taking someone in-house and making them the leader for developing the product, and then they eventually become product managers. So you've already managed the teams. You've probably already worked on technologies. So you definitely are on the right path to become product manager.
Awesome. That's cool. Before we finish, we used to have the same questions. So I just had 3 questions. The first one is, what would you do in your first 30 days as a PM when you join a new company or a new job?
Okay, I would say that that's actually one of the toughest questions because each organization is different. But if you're actually recruited as a product manager, trust me, then that they probably already have a product in mind, which was due for delivery a day prior to your joining. So you're landing in that kind of situation typically. So the key important is to do firefighting. So the first 30 days would be about grappling with the requirements, stakeholder management, and the documentation. These 3 will happen parallelly, and you would have very little time to actually decipher what needs to be done or organize or anything, if you are already recruited as a product manager. If not, if you are being promoted or being given a task of product manager, then there is a lot of time wherein you actually plan things, you do budgeting, and then speak to the bosses, speak to various departments, and get things in place. So these are 2 different challenges depending on where you are in the schema of things, and that's how you can plan your 30 days.
All right, that's cool. 2 more questions. Which side do you prefer, B2B or B2C?
Oh yeah, okay. So both have enough challenges. I mean, if anyone who likes challenges, please take up both of them. There are a lot of startups on the B2C front, okay, but not you won't come across too many on the B2B front, primarily because it involves engaging with a lot of institutions and everything. I would say in B2C, there is a lot more focus on time to market. And on B2B, there's a lot more focus on people, engaging stakeholders and everything. So the pressure in B2C is certainly higher than B2B. So I leave it to the audience to choose, because depending on the appetite that they have to deal with the time to market kind of scenarios. So I right now prefer B2B, having worked on the B2C side as well.
All right, thank you, Ram. And last questions. So I know, this is related to all those aspiring product managers. So in your opinion, what is the best advice that you can give them to all of you that want to join or break into product management?
While I don't have enough experience yet to become an advisor there, but I'll actually bank on one of the questions that the audience had asked: how a DS and MI person can become a product manager. So as I said, it's just not technology which will drive the product. The user requirements become key, and the stakeholder management. So if you are able to manage people and understand the nuances of technology and its limitations, you would become a successful product manager. If you are only basking about one aspect of the various skill sets that you require to execute a product, you would be a very good team member, but not necessarily a great product manager. So I'll stop there without adding too many words and becoming controversial.
All right, that's cool. Thank you, Rand. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate your experience, all the knowledge that you just shared with us. We hope to have you soon in another, of course, webinar, AMA, and why not one of our events in Toronto. So thank you all the audience. Thank you for joining us today. So please go to our page, proschool.com. You will see more events. You can RSVP. You will see all information. Do not hesitate to contact us if you have any question regarding our certificates, our events, etc. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Visit Toronto and enjoy your stay wherever you are. Have a wonderful day ahead. And thank you, Proto School, for this opportunity.
Sure. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Good afternoon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.